Welcome to Crimepedia Podcast. I am your host this week. I'm Cherry, and with me, as always, is my sidekick, the one and only Morgan.
Hello, Cherry.
Hello. It's so lovely and hot at the minute. The UK is about to experience a heat wave.
Really?
Yes.
So what is it
Today
going to be?
Has been absolutely blistered. It's been lovely today. It's been like 30 degrees today. It's been really nice.
So what would be a heat wave in the UK? Like 35?
Like 30 and above, really.
Oh, 30 and above.
Yeah. Around that kind of heat.
Okay, so for our non-UK listeners, 30 degrees is like what?
90? Is it 90 Fahrenheit? Or is it like 110? I don't know what it is actually in Fahrenheit.
88.
I'm not sure.
30
Oh,
degrees.
okay. I was close.
Yeah,
90.
88. Well, no, 88, 86, something like that. Yeah.
So which hot. Is really funny because I was talking to Brandon, who is in Tennessee, and he was telling me his like meter reading was like off the chart. It was so hot there, and he was like, "I'm going to go and sit in the pool because I'm so hot." And he was like, the air conditioning is not helping." And I was like over here, we don't do air conditioning in our houses. We just buckle down and suck it up.
Oh, no.
Not like you guys.
No.
Your Nancy Pantsy stuff.
Well, you know what? Our houses, here, to be fair, our houses aren't really designed to not have air conditioning, right? Because a lot of times you'll have houses that have like natural airflow. You know, you open up the windows and you'll get airflow through the house. Here, if you open up like your windows in the front, it's not going to be blowing through the house because of how the houses are set up.
Right.
Maybe need to fix that.
Yeah, America, sort your houses out. Well, it's always nice staying in a hotel in England though, because they have air conditioning. So it's always a bit of a bit of a luxury when except for the last hotel we stayed in because that didn't have any air conditioning. That was just like being at home. But
my God, no.
So I am really looking forward to Scotland in September because we're going to go up for CrimeCon. I'm really looking forward to the hotel hopefully having decent aircon and being able to sleep with the aircon.
Sure it
which will be nice.
I'm sure it will.
Yeah, I think so. The trouble is my hotel room when we did CrimeCon was absolutely beautiful. I had lovely floor to ceiling window, huge bed. The bathroom was gorgeous. It's just that the power didn't work. There was no aircon and neither did the water. It was just a bit of a shame, but never mind. Next year will be totally different. We'll be in a new hotel, so it'll be totally different next year. And yeah, of course, if you want to come and join us in September, tickets are on sale for CrimeCon UK in Glasgow. You can use our code Crimepedia and that will get you 10% off of your ticket price. The tickets have gone on sale now, early bird sale for CrimeCon in June next year. So it's the same weekend. It's like 11th to 12th of June weekend. And you can get your tickets early bird prices. So the prices are a lot lower this time of year if you get them earlier, and use our code again Crimepedia and you'll get yourself a discount off of that, as will you do if you go and get your tickets for Orlando. So Morgan's going to be at the Orlando CrimeCon next year and you can still use our code there. So it's just the same code every time. If you want to, you might as well get yourself a discount off of it because why not?
Yeah.
It's all good.
Save a little bit of money.
We need to say a big thank you as well to Bran on Insta, who's been expertly modelling our merch this week, which has been so nice. I was so excited when she sent through the pictures of the little video of her in the Crimepedia tank top. Exciting. Yeah, it's so exciting. So thank you very much. It was really kind of you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you to everyone that contacted us after last week's case as well. I was fearing a bit of a backlash on that one. I thought we were going to end up with people being a bit angry about my comments.
No, I told you they wouldn't.
I know, but I was a bit worried because it's not very nice, is it? And when we do our cases, you kind of just talk straight from your heart, really. It's not a scripted thing. So it tends to be, I don't think always before I say something. So there we are.
Which is good. You should do that.
Well, it's real, isn't it?
It was real.
It was real. This week's case is my case this week. So in case you don't listen all the time or you're new to listening, Morgan and I share the case load. So I will do a case one week and then Morgan will present a case the following week. So this week's my case. Mine tend to be unsolved cases from back in the day.
Old-timey Crimepedia.
Old time cases, because Old cases are always very special to me because I think that people do forget about them and then they give up. And so I would like to help bring them back to people's attention just in case, because with different eyes on a case, you can come up with different things. So this week's case is a very sad one. It is the Babes in the Wood case. In Bristol, in 1957, in the middle of a heatwave, a young brother and sister leave home to visit a nearby field to look at the horses and ponies. When they don't return home, their parents are worried and immediately call police. The children are missing and it seems they've disappeared without a trace. Their disappearance sparked one of the biggest searches ever in England. This is Crimepedia, and this is the case of the Babes in the Wood. Okay, Morgan, so on Thursday, 20th of June, 1957, Royston Sheesby, known as Roy, and his sister June were at their home in Brockworth Crescent in Stapleton, which is in the north of Bristol.
Okay.
Now, at that time, much like now, England was experiencing a heat wave, but the temperature that day had cooled down slightly, and the kids were at home with their mum, Barbara, and their dad, Jesse. Now, Roy was 5 and his sister June was 7. Now, reports after this had happened that they do mention another child, but I'm not sure where the other child fits in with this, whether the child is around when these two are around or whether the parents went on and had another child after these two. Because different reports that I read and different newspaper reports mention this 10-year-old child. And I'm not sure if that the 10-year-old was actually there at the time or whether this child came afterwards.
Okay.
So I just wanted to mention that there is actually another child, because I'm sure someone will email and say, you didn't mention the other child. So now Roy had been pestering his sister all afternoon to go out and play. She didn't really want to go out and play, but her little brother was like, please, come on, I want to go out. There's some horses in a field. I want to go and see them. So the nearby field was called Wickham Glen, and he was desperate to go out and visit these horses and ponies. So about 5:30, June gave in and they left hand in hand to go and see these horses. So obviously straight away I was like, what? A 5 and a 7-year-old going out on their own? This is terrible. But we're talking like 1957. So things were a bit different back then. Mum and Dad were doing some decorating and they were quite engrossed in the decorating. So Mum said, yeah, that's fine, you go. And then just like, off you go, kids, I'm busy, go, off you go. So a neighbour said that she had seen the children about 5:35 that evening walking in Frenchay Road. She said that June had a chocolate box in her hand, which is quite sweet because you don't normally have boxes of chocolates anymore, do you? It's normally like bags of chocolates.
Yeah.
So back in the day, she had a box of chocolates in her hand and did say that the kids were walking alone. Now, another witness, a 10-year-old boy, said he saw the two children at about 6:30 that evening. And he said, I think they were watching the river. Now, the parents had been engrossed in the decorating and realised at about 7 o'clock that they hadn't seen the kids for a while. And it was strange that the kids hadn't come back. So Mum left home, went down to Wickham Glen to find the kids. Okay. When she got there, obviously couldn't find them. So she started to then think, this is strange. They don't usually do this. They usually go where they're going to say they're going to go and then they come home. So she went back and they called the police. Now, their disappearance was one of the biggest searches ever in England. Thousands of people came forward and offered their help to try and search for these children. Police searched woodland, they searched grassland areas all around Stapleton, and eventually it went out within about 5 miles of the kids' home. They even had police dogs in searching the area. They had the local fire brigade, they called them in to drain a local pond, and this pond was 60 foot deep, this pond. So we're talking a huge pond, and they drained the pond so that they could see if the children had ended up in the pond. Now, with the story of the young 10-year-old saying that he thought they saw them at 6, I don't know whether you can really go with that, because, I mean, we're talking about a 10-year-old kid. Is that really a reliable witness? Would they have got the timings right?
Yeah.
That's the only problem with kid witness testifying, is that it's a bit, it's a bit hit and miss as to whether they got the time right, whether they did actually see those two kids at all. But there seemed to be no sign of the kids whatsoever, like nothing. Nobody had seen them, no signs of where they might have been. They just disappeared into thin air.
Yeah.
So, a few days into the investigation, a letter was sent to 2 local newspapers. Now, this letter said that the kids were alive and they were well, and if they were paid £200, the children would be let go. The letter was signed by Red Indians. Now, I've got the letter in full here, and
Okay.
it read, "The children, June and Royston Sheesby, are alive and well at this moment. It's useless for the police to continue searching. We hope they enjoyed their bath in the river. My brother and I took the children away on Thursday night and they will be returned unhurt on a payment of £200. This must be left at the GPO addressed to H. Rice to be called for on Wednesday afternoon. My brother will collect it, but if he should be detained, I shall kill the children after 2 hours from the time he leaves here. If he's allowed to leave, the children will be returned unhurt. Signed, West Indians."
West Indians.
But listen to them. Listen to the way that they've. It's quite an eloquent. I think my brother and I, not me and my brother. It's my brother and I.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think it's quite an eloquent letter.
Yeah.
I'm reading it. I just think this is a very strange. It's a very well written, eloquent letter.
Yeah. Huh.
Where they've got West Indians from, I don't know, but probably going back to that sort of time. Yeah, well,
West
I guess I just find that a bit weird. Signed West Indians.
That's
I
really
don't know.
strange.
Yeah, it's a very strange letter. So basically, they've said that the kids would be returned, and they've been kidnapped, and they'll be returned unhurt if they have this £200 payment. Now, the sentence that said about the river, when I first read it, I thought they meant the kids had enjoyed themselves in the river, but actually they mean the police. So obviously whoever this is has been watching the police activity, knowing that the police and the fire brigade had been in the river and had been in the pond as well. So this is obviously somebody local who's been watching this. The media had gone. This has been all over the media, so it was something that everybody knew about. The head of Bristol CID, Mr. Phillips, said that the letter was wicked and cruel hoax. He said that after they had received it, they kept a watch on the post office for 3 days until that Friday night with no result. Nobody turned up to pick up anything. So no one was there. That bogus parcel was left there and was not claimed. So the police actually did leave a bogus parcel for somebody to come and pick up, so they thought it would be the £200, but actually no one turned up for it. So the police said that the view is that the letters are a complete and wicked hoax, but of course we cannot rule out the possibility of kidnapping. Now, on the 3rd of July 1957, it was reported that 2 more unstamped letters signed H. Rice. So in both letters, they've mentioned this H. Rice.
Mm-hmm.
These were received by 2 Bristol evening papers, which was in each letter it said, "We warned you not to let the police interfere. Next time the demand will be higher." Now, it said that the 2 new letters were in the same handwriting as the first letter. But again, the police said that they're just purely malicious letters. They're not, the police weren't worried about them for whatever reason. I'm not really sure why they wouldn't take this seriously.
Yeah, I don't know. Was it simply because no one went to go pick up the parcel, and they're like, oh, okay, since no one really, since no one was seen going to grab the parcel or in the area, then it must not be.
This is a hoax.
I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know, but they didn't. It doesn't seem that it was taken very. It doesn't seem like it was taken very seriously.
Yeah.
They've ruled it as a hoax very quickly. So I don't know, whatever, they must have had some more information that they didn't put forward, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's why. On the 29th of June, the police said that they were certain that Roy and June were nowhere on land in the area around their home in the Stapleton area. All the rivers, all the ponds had been thoroughly searched, and there was no sign of them. So the police then said, "We have examined sources of other so-called clues and theories, but they've led absolutely nowhere. We've also not had the slightest suggestion to make us think that children have been kidnapped. I wish we did. We're baffled but not defeated." So that was the quote from the police, saying that they wish they did know more, but basically they're baffled, but they're not giving up. And I wonder why they haven't got the slightest inclination that these kids have been kidnapped. Why have they ruled that out so quickly?
I mean, that's the first thing you would, if you haven't found them any waterways, or they haven't, been hurt in some injury. My thought is they were
Abduction.
they were abducted by someone.
That's exactly exactly the same as I would think. But are we thinking that this is because, I don't know, cars? I mean, I know they did have cars back then, but they're not obviously as plentiful as they are now. Is it because they've got nobody saying they saw them, some people carrying kids? I just find it weird that they've just ruled that out. It's definitely not a kidnap.
That is very strange. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, that would be my well, okay, obviously it doesn't seem like it's a kidnapping for ransom, right?
No, that's right.
Is that what they're thinking? Like, okay, because there's not a true ransom for these children, then it's not a kidnapping? I don't know.
Maybe. Or maybe, I mean, it could be that maybe I'm thinking with a 21st century, like a nowadays head on
Oh, yeah.
in procedure, whereas obviously back then procedures were very different.
Yeah.
So could it be that that's just how, that's just how it happened? I'm looking at the first thing I thought of was abduction and, a
Well,
sexual predator. That was the
but
first thing I thought
let's
of.
put it this way, in 1957, you don't have a 5 and 7-year-old catching an Uber to
No,
Heathrow
that's true. Yeah, that's
and
true.
flying
And
somewhere
get on a
else.
plane. That's right.
No,
Exactly.
so what is it? I mean, you
I mean,
said
how
that
far can a 5 and 7-year-old go?
you're coming and you're saying, well, they're nowhere on land and they're nowhere in any of these
Mm.
waterways, so
So where the hell are
they
they?
didn't just disappear.
No, that's right. They are somewhere. Now, Roy and June's parents were obviously beside themselves with worry. They again, the two of them actually dismissed kidnapping. They said that they had warned June, being the eldest, not to accept any lifts from strange men because she was an attractive girl. So June's mum appealed for people to look for a woman because she said if they had been taken by anybody, it made more sense to her that the kids would have trusted a woman over a man.
Okay,
So
possibly, yeah.
I get that. So she's saying she doesn't think they've been kidnapped by a man because June wouldn't get into a man's car. What she would get into the car of a woman.
Do you know what I just thought about this and
Mm.
going all over this. Now, we don't know for sure what the police were looking into, but we haven't even heard the police like looking at the parents
No, not
as
at all.
being suspects in this at all.
No. There's no mention in any of the reports that I read that the parents were suspects at all.
That's strange. Because
Well,
normally
because
now,
now it would be parents, it'd be next of kin and
yeah.
last people that saw them alive would be. I mean, this was this was a huge, huge investigation.
Mhm.
They interviewed over like 2,000 people. They took so many statements and like nothing. And despite the fact that they did all this work, they drew a blank, and basically the case then started to have no credible leads whatsoever. But 11 days later, and this is around 9 o'clock in the evening on the 1st of July,
Okay.
a policeman called PC. Now, he's called PC, I would say it as Braw, but it's Brough. Now, I would read that as Braw, but it could be wrong. But
Okay.
so this policeman, PC Braw, was patrolling a sloping bank near the River Frome at Snuff Mills, and he found the children. Their bodies were found partially buried under a shallow covering of soil and leaves. Now, this was on a slope about 100 yards from the river. This is not that far from their home.
Okay.
And it was believed that this area had already been searched,
Oh.
but nobody had found them. Now, he had seen Roy's hand coming up through some undergrowth and had called
Mm.
it in. The police then began to search the area for June's body, having found Roy. Unfortunately, the search for June was unsuccessful. And when police removed Roy's body, underneath Roy's body, they found a blue and white material underneath him, which was the material of a dress that June was wearing when she left the house. And they then discovered that June was buried underneath Roy.
Oh, okay. Okay, let's go back real quick. You said it was a policeman that found them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And was he was on duty.
Yeah. Patrolling the area. Yeah.
He was just patrolling the area.
Well, I don't know if he was patrolling the area as in looking for the kids still, or whether
That's
they were just, whether they were just out and he was just in the area. I'm not
that's
sure. It
what I was
doesn't
gonna
actually say.
ask
Yeah, it just
because
says they were patrolling the area.
because typically, if you're a policeman and you're out on patrol, you're not
Yeah.
patrolling a slope
Woods. No,
in the
that's right.
woods along a river.
Well, he said he was out patrolling and he saw the hand and thought, "What was that?" And then in the inquest that follows, he describes how he actually found the kids. He saw the little hand sticking out of the thing. And I understand, if I'm correct, that there was some rainfall very close to this discovery, and they think that what had happened is the silt had washed down the slope and it had exposed his hands. So although they're searching for the kids, they're not digging up areas searching for the
Mhm.
kids. And so because of this huge rainfall that they had, it had washed the soil downwards and his hand had then come out, that's how he discovered it. Looking down the bank, he saw the kid's hand sticking out of the floor.
I would be interested in knowing if had been planned, if he was supposed to be searching this
Yeah,
area,
I would too.
if this is
Yeah.
something that he would normally be doing, if this
Yeah.
was officially he was out, like, searching for the kids,
Yeah.
because this is not normal, I
Well, I
don't
don't know
think.
if it's his normal route. That's right, exactly.
Well, no.
There's nothing to say that there's nothing to say why he was in that particular area at the time,
Yeah.
other than he was just patrolling. So whether that
Be
meant he walked through that area,
Yeah,
I
because
don't know.
typically you're not gonna find policemen, and their beat is the woods.
Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. But you don't
Hey,
know. It could be a
yeah,
cut through, couldn't it? He could be cutting through to go somewhere else. You don't. I don't
I
know.
suppose, but
But it would be interesting to find that out. That would be very interesting to find out whether that was his usual area.
yeah, because let's put it this way, we say that June was told don't take rides from strangers, from men, whatever,
But a
and
policeman
up,
would be a person of trust.
yes, they would.
They would, yeah. Interesting. That's an interesting theory, actually. Would be good if we could find that out.
Yeah,
Well, so the policeman said that this is a quote: protruding from the ground, I saw the back of a boy's skull, his jersey, and some brown shoes. They were all covered with some leaf mold and some logs. Now, the spot that they were found was on the fringe. It's right on the edge of Stapleton Mental Hospital, which is about half a mile away, but
okay,
then also within not so far distance of Bristol Mental Hospital. So I think they were in 50 yards, within 50 yards, these mental hospitals. Now, the post-mortem was done and it was determined that they had been beaten to death with a blunt instrument. Both children had fractured skulls. However, at the inquest, it was concluded that the cause of death was unascertainable. And the verdict of the cause of death was murder by some person or persons unknown. And that was when the media dubbed this double murder the babes in the wood
yeah,
murder. So the murder inquiry, I don't know how it focused on this, but it soon focused on a person known as the man in the blue suit. So there was this man who was aged, they say, between 45 and 50, with fair and greying hair. Now, he had spoken to an off-duty fireman, which was at the beauty spot, while two children, thought to be those children, played at the riverside. So I'm not sure. This one, I had tried to look into this a bit more. I'm not sure why the off-duty fireman was there at the beauty spot, whether he was with children, whether he was with his family, whether he was there on his own, um, whether he was even connected to these two children. I'm not sure who called this in, but there's this report of this man in the blue suit, and this is talked about quite a lot in this case. I've read some
yeah.
good Reddit subreddits about this. Um, Despite 25,000 people being questioned and more than 2,000 statements being taken by police, the man in the blue suit was never identified. No one ever came forward to say, oh, no, that was me, or that was my husband, or no one's ever come forward about this man in the blue suit. Another focus for police on this case was the 5,000 patients based at Stoke Park Hospital, which is near where the children's body were found. There were loads of confessions coming from this nearby mental institute. Now, the police went over to the mental institute and checked all the patients' histories for violence and to see if
Mhm.
there was any that had been put in there for violence against kids or anything like that. Now, among those that were questioned was a patient called the Storyteller.
Ooh,
Now, he used to sit by the river and tell children tales of Wild West hero Davy Crockett and also William Tell.
yeah,
So he was then suspect number one because he obviously used to sit down by the river. Whether he was out at the time, I'm not sure, but he was number one suspect. But eventually the police came to the conclusion that he was actually harmless. He was just an old man with a genuine love of kids and just liked to tell stories. But the disturbing thing about these two mental hospitals that are close by is that people escaped from there all the time. They were absconding from there all the time. And one of the mental patients at the hospital was reported to have escaped on the 3rd of July, and a massive search went underway for him. He was said to have been recently transferred from a place called Rampton State Mental Institution. And the police and the hospital said, we would like to interview this man at the moment, but there's nothing against him except for the fact that he's run away from the mental hospital. That's the only reason that they want to talk to him in connection with this, is because he's the only one that's not there at the time. So that was, I mean, there isn't anything to say that this guy had anything to do with the children's disappearance. He literally had just escaped 2 a.m. in the morning. He went down a drain pipe, and this was about 4 hours after the murder hunt had began. So, and then at that same time, another mental patient hadn't returned from his parole, and they then started looking at him as well, but then he was found to be completely in the clear. So far, there's nobody really from either institution that warrants, looking at further. There's nobody there with a history of violence against kids or anything like that. So I think it's just one of those things that people have worried this person's absconded and then 2 kids have been found dead,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they did hold a male nurse. Now, he was a 25-year-old male nurse. He was held for 32 hours for questioning.
Okay.
Now, they've not said why he was held, just that it was a male nurse held for 32 hours. He was eventually released, very upset, because he believed he would be forced out of Bristol because people would believe that he was a child murderer. So there's nothing to say why this guy, there's no names of him or why he was held. But they did have another anonymous letter. Now, this letter was written on blue paper, pale blue paper, and it was sent to the police, and it was said to contain vital information about the murder. And then a blue suit was discovered from a storeroom at the Bristol Mental Hospital. And another patient was questioned multiple times, but then nothing. So all of a sudden this blue suit's turned up, which is a bit weird considering you've got this whole man in the blue suit thing, and the fact that patients are able to abscond quite often from these institutes. It makes you wonder, could it have been somebody from either institution?
Possible, yeah. I mean, you can't say absolutely no, but here's the thing. If a patient goes missing, they would have had been missing for quite some time to abduct these kids, to kill them, to bury them, and to get back.
Yeah.
There should be some sort of note of, this patient was missing from on this day between
this time
to this time. But there doesn't seem to be anyone that would fit that bill.
Not at the moment. Or is there?
I don't know. Is there?
Well, Roy and June were buried in Filton on the 9th of July, 1957. Now, the detectives went out and mingled with the crowd at the funeral. The mum and dad didn't want a big fuss. They didn't want it to be a whole town's funeral. They wanted it to be a private funeral. But obviously, there are going to be people in town that want to pay their respects. Now, the detective said that the type of person who could commit a murder like this might very well come along to see what he's done, all these people grieving, to get a bit of a kick out of it. And the details of the funeral had actually been kept secret. But there was a crowd of about 100 people, which was mostly women, who actually went outside their home and laid wreaths outside. Now, there was about 20 wreaths laid out for these kids. And with Jesse, the dad, saying, we want this whole affair to be kept as quiet as possible, he was a bit annoyed by this. Because, he wanted it to be quiet. Now, There was a brief service. This was held at Beechcroft Methodist Church, which is actually where Roy and June had been to Sunday school, which I thought was really sad. And then they were buried in Harry Stokes Cemetery in Filton. Now, the case did remain open, but all lines of inquiry had basically dried up, and then this case became cold.
Yeah.
However,
dun, dun, dun.
Here we go. In 1964, there was a breakthrough in the case.
Okay.
Because a Home Office psychiatrist called Dr. Hyatt William said that a man had been jailed for a minor offence, and whilst he was in there, he had confessed that he had killed 2 children and never been charged.
Okay.
So this guy had since died. So this Home Office psychiatrist had said that this guy had been jailed. This psychiatrist had chats with him, but after confessing to his murder, this guy had then died and so was no longer available for questioning.
Okay.
So it was reported on the 1st of September 1964 that the psychiatrist had told a conference about this prisoner who had been killed by his conscience. He confessed to murdering 2 young children, and Bristol police had made attempts to get permission to see this document of this patient's confession.
Yeah.
But they were told no.
Nope.
Now, I thought that police would have the power to request documents like that, but unfortunately not. Now, the police actually said, and this is quote, following correspondence between the Bristol police, the Home Office, the doctor, which is the psychiatrist, and his solicitors,
yes,
the chief constable has been informed by a firm of solicitors that consent to see this certain document is not given.
Why?
Exactly. So I spoke to our resident consultant forensic psychiatrist, Dr. Shahom Das, our friend. I asked him why they wouldn't be allowed to see this. And he came back and said, this is really fishy, because usually the police would be granted permission to see a document like that.
Yeah.
And I said, well, the guy's dead anyway. So it's not like, you know, if he, maybe it would be, because he said maybe it's a false confession. And so there would be no point. But I said, but the guy's dead, so there wouldn't be any, you know, there wouldn't be any bad press about him because you're giving it to the police, not the media, which I understand, you know, I can get it, not send it to the media, but you're giving it to the police. Surely they should be able to at least rule this guy out.
Yeah.
But they're not allowed. Now, it was said that after the man confessed to the murder of these 2 kids, his claim was immediately linked to Roy and June's murder, because at that time, it was the only unsolved murder of that type.
Of 2 children?
Yes. At the same time that he's confessing that he said he did it.
Okay, so they didn't release the record. Do we know who the person is? Or no one knows who he is?
Never been released. Never been released.
And
not even to the police.
So the police can't even go to see if he was in that Bristol area?
No.
They can't see if he was in either of these hospitals?
No, they can't rule him out.
They can't do anything. But they don't know who he is.
No. So why, if this guy's dead and obviously not going to come to any, there's not going to be no retribution or anything, why won't that psychiatrist, why won't he give over that information? Why are they saying no? Why are the Home Office refusing? Why are the solicitors refusing?
That's really weird.
Isn't it? And I thought that's just odd. That's just really weird. Why won't they disclose it? Because what harm is it going to do? The fact that they actually get the police to rule this guy out.
I mean, is there anything the police can do to like force their hands?
Well, despite constant requests to see this prisoner's confession, it was by the chief constable as well, a guy called George Twist. He tried and tried and tried constantly to get this prisoner's confession so they could read it, because they don't know if this contains anything that absolutely would convince them that he was part of it. We don't know what he's actually said, other than he's confessed to killing these kids. He could have given over vital information that the police would look at and go, only the murderer would know that. So this guy definitely did do it.
Yeah.
Or he's confessing to stuff and they go, well, no, that's not what happened. That doesn't match up with the evidence that we've got. So this guy's obviously false confessing.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why they won't do that. So, I mean nothing was disclosed to them.
Do we know if this confession even is like in depth, if there's like substance to it?
No, we don't know. All we know is what this forensic psychiatrist said, is that a man had been jailed for a minor offence, and whilst he was in jail, he had confessed to murdering these 2 kids. Now, Jesse, the kid's father, he said at the time, "This confirms what I already know. I was unofficially told by a policeman a few years ago that a man they suspected of murdering my children was dead."
Huh.
So the police obviously thought he did it. He was a suspect, and now he's dead. So it's a 65-year-old case that remains unsolved to this day, although it is still labelled, and I checked yesterday, it's still labelled active with regular reviews by Avon and Somerset Police.
So, are they still trying to get these records?
I don't know.
Because obviously
I would
that
hope so.
uh, because it would be so easy to get this and to review it and
Well, why? I just
say
don't understand why they won't let them. Why? What harm is it going to do? Why won't they let them see this confession?
you're not protecting the a patient. Here's the thing too,
No.
at the time that he confessed, he was in jail already, right?
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
What?
So I don't really understand why they won't let the police have these. I understand not letting the media have them, or like a normal person like you or I asking for it. But why not
Yeah.
let the police use this confession to see whether they could rule this guy out, or
Yeah.
whether he's confessed to something in there that actually makes sense with the evidence? Isn't it weird?
That is really weird.
Hmm.
It's like they're more concerned about protecting this guy who has been dead for however many years now, since 1964,
Well, yeah.
than to figure out who possibly killed
2
2
innocent
children.
kids. Yeah. So again, I just find that really strange that they won't release it to the police. And I would like to know why they won't why won't they release it? Even if they think it's a false confession, surely letting somebody in the police read that to make their mind up as to whether this is a false confession or not. I mean, that confession may have something in it that the police look at and say, well, that fits exactly with what we found.
I mean, doesn't the doctor have, like, a right to
Or a
a
responsibility at least to,
responsibility to
yeah,
say, "Hey,
yeah.
I was told someone confessed a murder to me."
I know you've got patient doctor confidentiality, but
But
surely,
it only goes so far, right?
yeah. I mean, I'm sure. And when I spoke to Shaham and said to him, like, why would this be? He said the police would have been given authority to demand access, given it's for a murder. And he said, unless the dude was totally psychotic, delusional, and clearly wasn't guilty.
Yeah.
So that was what he said. But I mean, if he was totally psychotic and clearly delusional, he was arrested for a minor crime. So was he totally psychotic and delusional? They don't mention the fact that he's a psychiatric outpatient or a psychiatric patient or under evaluation. They just say that this consultant psychiatrist took a confession from a man who confessed to killing 2 kids. Surely
Well,
it's worth looking at.
now I don't know if this okay. uh, I put this in. If a patient confesses to a doctor or therapist about murder, are they obligated by law to tell the authorities? Now, this is
Now.
criminal law in the United States, okay?
Yeah.
I don't know what it is there because your stuff is crazy. But the doctor patient or therapist patient privilege only applies to treatment between a patient and the healthcare practitioner. A murder committed by the patient does not fall within the patient's treatment and is not privileged.
Okay, so I've just checked and it says that the doctor, if you confess murder to a doctor, then they don't have to be sworn to secrecy because it doesn't pertain to your medical records. So it says they may need to make an exception if they believe that you're at risk of seriously harming yourself or somebody else. So yeah, your patient records are confidential. However, if you confess murder to somebody, then
Mhm.
that is nothing to do with your medical records, and they are then required to report this. So why are they keeping this information? Why are they not giving this to the police?
I mean, what could be in there to that they are so that they don't want to release.
No, I mean, even if he was clearly delusional and obviously not guilty of the murder, surely the police, it wouldn't matter. The police read that anyway. I mean, it's not like he's going to be falsely imprisoned because the guy's
Yeah.
died. So I don't really understand why they're refusing that document to be shown to police. I don't get it.
It's really weird.
I'm not sure. Yeah. And so obviously now, 65 years later, still unsolved. And that really bugs me that those poor kids, especially for the mum and dad, obviously they lived out the rest of their lives not knowing who killed their children. We're not talking about, the children just fell over and died. They were brutal. I mean, they were beaten to death. I mean, who does that to two children?
Yeah. Why? They didn't do anything.
No. I mean,
5 and 7.
Did the kids witness something they shouldn't have done while they were down at, Wick Glen and looking at the horses? Did they witness something and they were killed because they witnessed something they shouldn't have done? Okay, that makes sense. But what?
Maybe.
What are they going to be witnessing?
What would they witness that they would lead to their death, though, right?
I don't know. It's just, I just find it really awful that this is, and you see what I mean now. This case is probably never going to actually have a conclusion because of the sheer time scale of this case.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the mum and dad, let's say they were in their 20s, they're now going to be in their late 80s, 90s, if they are still with us at all. There's not much. I went and tried to have a look at some family trees to see whether they were still alive, but you can't really find much information on them either. There's not very much information on the mum and dad or the surviving sibling. There's nothing. There's no names of the surviving sibling or anything. But I think it's a very strange case. And as soon as I read that part about the non-disclosure of this document, it piqued my interest even more because
it's so strange. Because honestly, it could be nothing. It could be absolutely nothing.
It could be exactly, but it could be everything.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly.
And I don't understand why they wouldn't. I don't understand why they wouldn't try and help the case. Even if it was delusional, it rules that guy out. It's one less to have us on the pool of suspects.
Makes no sense.
But poor Roy and poor June, and it's a really sad story that's how they met their deaths, and the fact that now nobody's looking into it anymore. And the longer it goes on, the harder it's going to be to speak to anybody that was in the area at the time that remembers it, because all the adults are going to be like in their late 80s, early 90s now.
Yeah, minimum, right?
Yeah. So I just think it's a really sad case, and it's just one of those ones that one of Britain's longest unsolved cases, and there's not much more that we're going to be able to find out. I don't think. It's quite a sad one.
It really is.
Let us know your thoughts on it. What do you think could have happened? You can get us on our Instagram, or you can message us on our emails. We love your emails. So let us know what you think.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. All right. So with that, how about we line this up, and at the end of each episode, we do that by doing a little thing that we call Dumb Criminal.
Hey, Captain Stupid Poopy Pants. Use a dummy.
Use a dummy.
Use a dummy.
Go on then. What's the dumb criminal for this week? Who is our dummy this week?
All right. So we are going to the great state of Alabama for this week's case.
Okay.
Now, we have, in this case, there was a gentleman who was walking through backyards, stealing lawnmowers and a leaf blower, when some residents noticed him and decided to confront the man. This man decided to flee to the nearby Coosa River, okay?
With a leaf blower under his arm.
With a leaf blower under his arm. Now, he decided that, a good way to escape these upset citizens and the police was to jump into a kayak.
Oh, God. Okay.
So the suspect decided to jump in this kayak and to paddle away. But
to freedom.
But unfortunately for him, the police were able to easily track him down and locate him. And when they did, his kayak capsized.
Oh, no.
And flipped over.
Oh, God. That was stupid.
Which at that point, the suspect had to start swimming back to the bank where police officers were waiting for him.
Just stood on the bank and come on. Oh, we haven't got all day. Hurry up.
Now, apparently, the man told police that he was stealing the items to sell so he can get his girlfriend's vehicle out of impound.
Oh, so they're a good couple then. Girlfriend's vehicle was impounded.
So the police, the girlfriend's car had been parked illegally, and police actually did tow the vehicle to the impound lot the day before.
So he's just gone to steal just what he can pick up,
whatever
basically.
He can pick
because
up.
I wouldn't have thought lawnmowers and leaf blowers would be worth very much.
You can probably get some, $50.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, not a lot, really.
No, definitely not a lot.
Oh, God bless him.
Here's the thing, too. If his boat did not capsize, police actually were prepared to send a boat to meet him in the river. So there is nowhere for this guy to go.
It's a bit stupid, isn't it, going to a river because you're kind of stuck, aren't you?
Yeah.
People can get you from both sides. You're kind of just stuck there in the middle. So he probably wasn't his smartest move, really, to be fair.
Could you imagine, trying to get away? I'm like, oh, look, here's a kayak.
Yeah.
And you're not going very fast in a kayak either.
Exactly. How fast are you going to go? It's not even like a motorized boat or anything. It's just your own speed. Oh, bless him.
No. So he definitely did not get far and did not get away. So that is this week's dumb criminal.
He's dumb, but I kind of feel sorry for him because, he used his initiative and jumped in a boat. Just crap on it, really.
I know.
Oh, bless him. I wonder if he actually had oars or whether he was just like scrambling with his hands or something. That's why he
Could you imagine? He's like just paddling with his hands.
Splashing, trying to get along. There's no mention of any oars there. That's why he just capsized, because he's crap at his... But he couldn't swim either. He was just flashing around in there. Bless him.
Oh, could you just imagine the feeling like boat, you're like, I'm getting away, and then you capsize, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, like a right idiot, and you're soaking wet. Yeah. How embarrassing. Think, people, before you commit crimes. Think about the getaway. Oh, thank you for that. That's a nice little mood lifter. I like that. So yes, if you have got a case that you would like to suggest to us, we've had some in on email. That's great. We love to look into the cases that you send us. If there's anything that we can do to help with it, then we will do. You can send them through to us on our website, which is crimepediapodcast.com, or you can do it through Instagram. Whichever way. Facebook will probably take me a while if you're going to send it to me on Facebook, because I forget to check it. So we have got a new discussion page. We've had it for a while, but I was locked out for some reason. I don't think you could access it properly either. But now for some reason we both can. So we've now got a discussion page on Facebook. If Facebook is your thing, you can come and join it. It's under Crimepedia. Is it under Crimepedia discussion or?
I just think it's just Crimepedia. I think you can just search Crimepedia and it'll pop up the page, I believe.
Yeah, so you can discuss cases. People have been leaving messages on there for different cases that we've covered as well. So we would love to hear your thoughts. And we will be back next week with another case. It'll be Morgan's case next week.
Yes, it will.
And so for now, be nice.
And bye.